Hello everyone, this is part 22 of What If Naruto Leaves Konoha and Awakens Lava and Boil release, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Land of Sound. Orochimaru's hideaway. My help. What the hell does that mean? Orochimaru was at first surprised, but it was soon replaced with anger. Was it some sort of joke? Jiraiya kept his poker face though. It was no joke. To defeat the tailed beasts they would need an expert on fighting them, let alone countering Madara's interference. Because Jiraiya had no experience in the forbidden arts of revival techniques, he had to go to the man who perfected it, Orochimaru. I need you to summon a person with the Edo Tensei, can you do it? Orochimaru's surprise lowered back down to a comfortable smirk and he began to laugh. This irritated Jiraiya. Ha ha ha. You want to revive someone. You want me to do it. I thought you were better than that, Jiraiya, having to use such a forbidden technique. Why would you want their soul to suffer by bringing them back to this hell? Jiraiya crossed his arms and decided that it was best to explain the situation. Orochimaru, Madara Uchiha is alive and well. In fact, he is the leader of Akatsuki. Right now he is on his way to Konoha with 4-tailed beasts just waiting to unleash them on the village. I know you don't care about Konoha, but the least you can do is hear me out. Orochimaru was surprised to hear that Madara was going to use 4-tailed beasts on Konoha. However, as Jiraiya said, he really didn't care. Fine then, I'll humor you. Why should I help you? Jiraiya let out a breath. He had been holding it. At least his old teammate would hear him out. Well, I can see that you are sick. How about I find a way to cure you? Orochimaru scowled at the man for his pitiful offer and waved an arm towards Kabuto. You really think you can find a cure? Kabuto has tried everything and yet I'm still bedridden. I have no host to transfer into. I will be soon. Why should I even bother to trust that you could fulfill that promise when we have been enemies for ages? Because we are teammates. No matter if you are a traitor to the village or not, that doesn't mean the time we were together was lost. I loved you like a brother, you were the greatest rival I could ask for, but you had to leave the village so you could gain immortality. That hit everyone hard, but it hit me the hardest. That was why I went after you, to get a straight answer. Orochimaru realized it was turning into a shouting match over their past and decided to defend himself. That damned village could offer me nothing. I learned the techniques, did the missions, tried to become Hokage. Everything I did wasn't enough. My experiments were prohibited and my rightful place as Yondaime was given to that damn brat you trained. What was left for me? Nothing. Your pitiful attempt to get me to come back only solidified my choice. Nothing has changed. Jiraiya gritted his teeth as he listened to his teammate talk trash about the village. It made him cringe with anger. Have you really lost all your feelings from when you were in Konoha? When we were on a team, wasn't that fun, rewarding even? Can you really say that you no longer have any ties with the village? Orochimaru smiled, an evil smile that just made Jiraiya scowl. Oh, of course I have ties with the village, Jiraiya, if of course they will net me more power. The only thing left in me is bitter hatred. Now get out of here. Jiraiya wasn't about to leave though, he needed Orochimaru's help. Since I haven't forgotten what it means to be a real teammate, I'll offer my body to be your next host. Just please, help save Konoha with me. The two sound ninja were taken aback by Jiraiya's offer. Was he really willing to himself? What are you saying? Do you even understand the basis of Orochimaru-sama's technique? You are too old, your body would reject him within a few moments. It's hopeless to try and barter with that argument. Orochimaru said nothing as Kabuto explained the basic details of the technique to Jiraiya. There has to be some way. Maybe we can get Tsunade to heal you, or maybe find someone that is acceptable, anything. Orochimaru was again surprised by Jiraiya's attitude. The man seemed as if he was going insane with desperation. What the hell is the matter with you, Jiraiya? Why are you trying so hard for Konoha? It has done nothing for you, even your precious Tsunade never fell for you. Why are you bartering for their lives like a beggar in the streets? Jiraiya looked down at the floor, trying his best to formulate an answer. It's not just for Konoha, I'm doing this because you were once my teammate, I haven't forgotten it like you have. Even if you don't have any desire to help Konoha, the least you can do is help me one last time. I can't force you, so it's up to you whether Konoha gets the help it needs or not. Orochimaru shook his head. The man forgot who he was talking to. He was the bitter hater of the leaf. You were going to try and get me to summon the Shodai Hokage, weren't you? Jiraiya looked at him with surprise at how he saw through his plan but nodded anyway. You wanted to control the tailed beasts, leaving Madara without an army. Well, even if I was willing, the man is trapped in the stomach of the death god. We can't get him out without contacting the god himself. Jiraiya smirked and pointed a thumb at his sea in triumph. The third showed me the technique to summon him. All I need is your cooperation and we can have the Shodai up and running pretty quick. Orochimaru was again amazed by Jiraiya's spontaneity but thought little of it. We would also need a living one. There isn't any chance that we can find one on such short notice. Jiraiya had thought of that, but the specifics were where things began to get fuzzy. Well, I was planning on myself if you didn't have a better idea. Orochimaru was again surprised at how casual his teammate suggested his own death. What happened to Jiraiya? Are you sure that would be such a good idea? I thought you were supposed to help heal me. The man gave an apologetic smile and scratched the back of his head. Sorry, these little details are a bit difficult for me to keep track of. Orochimaru sighed. There was his old teammate with his annoying forgetfulness. Orochimaru-sama, you can't actually be thinking of accepting his offer. He's from Konoha, he could just be lying. Kabuto argued. He had expected Orochimaru to do something about Jiraiya, yet here he remained in his bed chambers. Kabuto, there is little point in being stubborn. Even if he was lying and he was here to kill me, I am about to anyway. I could myself and get some vengeance against Akatsuki with my last breath. It would be better than laying in this bed waiting to Jiraiya's eyes widened as his friend brainstormed out loud. He couldn't be considering being the Orochimaru, I thought we discussed that if anything I would be the You still have a chance to get healed or get a new host. I don't know that technique. I'm not immortal. You still have to learn the world's jutsu, right? Orochimaru began to chuckle at Jiraiya's hasty reprimand of his idea when the reality was he couldn't comprehend Orochimaru's thoughts. I'm not so sure I even understand myself these days. Maybe it is the influence of the drugs. But I feel like being a little heroic in my last moments. It would be sweet irony for the leaf to be saved by one of its greatest defectors. I can just imagine their faces now. Summon the death god Jiraiya, let's get this over with. The man looked as if he was going to protest further, but Orochimaru caught him off with a glare and a coughing fit. Fine, Jiraiya dejectedly admitted, going through the hand signs and summoning the death god himself. The floating specter floated right behind the white-haired man. Why has a mortal summoned me? The death god, impatient as ever, went straight to the point as he saw the three men inside the room. Shinigami-sama, we would like to request that you allow us to temporarily revive one of the souls in your stomach. We are in dire need of his abilities. A loud roar from the god quieted Jiraiya, fearful of getting on his bad side. That is impossible. All the souls consumed by me are in a never-ending struggle with the ones who placed them there. They cannot be removed so easily. Jiraiya gulped and turned towards Orochimaru, who was beginning the preparations for the resurrection with Kabuto. Please Shinigami-sama, there must be some deal we can work out to just have the spirit temporarily leave and return. Just for a few hours, that is all I ask. Jiraiya got on his knees to beg, surprising the omniscient god. Is it really that important? A shinobi bowing so low, could this be a true human crisis? Jiraiya nodded his head multiple times. They were practically desperate. He looked up to see the Shinigami looking off into space as he was thinking. It may be done if and only if the soul is on loan and will be returned to me shortly. Also, as this should not become a common thing, I must ask for another to come back along with the soul of your chosen warrior. Jiraiya's eyes widened at the hearing of a second to appease the death god. He turned around to see Orochimaru's thoughts on it. Does it require any specific criteria? Jiraiya questioned, and the Shinigami shook its head negatively. He turned to Orochimaru and patted his sea. I can be the second if you will be the one to inherit the soul, Orochimaru. The pale man shook his head to Jiraiya's volunteering. It wasn't a good plan at all. No, the Shodai will need someone here to guide him to Konoha and explain the situation. Since you are the one that came up with the idea, you must be the one to lead him. I'm Jiraiya. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't change hosts anymore. All that is left is for me to try and do something with my life. I'm not asking for redemption, I'm just asking for a worthy way to S. What better way than to become the Shodai incarnated? Jiraiya swallowed a lump in his tea. Was Orochimaru really willing to go through with it? That was a shock to both Kabuto and the Toad Sage. If he shall not be the S, then who will? Orochimaru grimaced when he did not have an answer when Kabuto sighed and volunteered. I'll elder it. Jiraiya looked at the boy with surprise. He had no reason to volunteer when he had a future. Kabuto, I understand you are loyal to me, but you aren't needed here. Kabuto adjusted his glasses and had a small smile on his face, surprising the Sannin. Orochimaru-sama, I have nothing left after US. I am an international criminal. All the countries of the world will be after me when Akatsuki is gone. I've also found that I function best as a follower, not a leader. If US and I live, who will I follow orders from? Besides, Kabuto turned towards his master and smirked. You would be nothing without my advice and help in the afterlife. Orochimaru's grimace turned to a smirk and he chuckled darkly. If this was a different situation, Kabuto, I would demand an explanation of that talk. But in this case, I'll take that as a compliment. Kabuto bowed his head as Jiraiya said nothing. There was nothing to say as it seemed his friend was convinced of his mission. Let us finish this. Begin your resurrection jutsu. Orochimaru summoned a coffin labeled with the endearing kanji for first, as such for the one they would be summoning. Jiraiya, help me get to the coffin, I can't walk. Jiraiya quickly moved to his old friend's bedside and gently lifted him up, balancing him with an arm over his shoulders. Orochimaru, are you sure? Jiraiya had to ask one last time. This was the last chance he had to take back his place as the S. Orochimaru shook his head and entered the tall standing coffin. I guess this is goodbye, Jiraiya. Just remember, don't let the leaf look at this as a favor from me. I'm not really doing it for them. This is just so I can S with some dignity. Jiraiya, despite himself, smiled at his old friend's words and wiped his eyes a little bit. Yeah, you got it, pal. Orochimaru nodded and held up the final hand sign for Edo Tensei, causing the coffin to slowly close and cover him inside. Human, come forward so I may absorb your soul. Your master will follow you into the afterlife when it is time for Hashirama's soul to return. Kabuto came towards the sound of the voice and felt a ghostly appendage S into his stomach, causing him to gasp out in surprise and pain. The Shinigami pulled on Kabuto's soul and lit from within him, its blue aura writhing in pain as his body fell pale and limp. Without even a final word, Kabuto's body hit the floor and the Reaper ate it whole, leaving it confined to its stomach. With that action done, the spirit regurgitated a soul to attempt to release Hashirama from its jail. Holding it in his arms, the screaming head of a soul was revealed to be his brother, Tobirama. The Shinigami shook its head and ate Tobirama again, preparing for a second time to find Hashirama. With a final tug from its esophagus, the soul of Hashirama was revealed. It looked as if it was in constant pain, no doubt from its current living conditions in the Reaper's stomach. With little finesse, the Reaper threw the soul at the coffin and Hashirama entered and took control of Orochimaru's body. All of this went unseen by Jiraiya as the coffin was sealed and the Reaper began to fade away. I will absorb their souls in 6 hours' time, beware of my return. Jiraiya could only nod in silence as the Reaper disappeared, leaving him alone with the coffin. He turned towards it now, to see the final act of a dreadful play. With a sickening creak, the wooden hinges came off and the coffin's lid began to fall forward to reveal the contents. As if to heighten the suspense, a wind blew from the coffin and snuffed the flames of all the candles, leaving Jiraiya in the dark. A loud crack echoed around the room when the lid hit the ground and made Jiraiya scramble to find light. Holding up a ram hand sign, Jiraiya focused his chakra and created a small flame in the palm of his hand. He held it up towards the coffin to try and catch a peek but found it too weak. Feeling as if the suspense was killing him, Jiraiya spoke softly to try and rouse the attention of the figure occupying the coffin. Orochimaru, is that you? Was it a success? The figure took a step forward, somewhat stumbling as it got used to walking again after so much time. Jiraiya's eyes widened when a deep, warm voice began to fill the room. It wasn't the cold, hissing of Orochimaru's usual speech pattern, it could only mean one outcome. Orochimaru. No. My name is Hashirama Senju. The fire fully illuminated the figure now as he stepped into range, a smile splaying over the wizened Kage's features. Perhaps you can tell my why, or even how, I have been summoned again after being sealed into the death god's stomach. Jiraiya gulped. He had never spoken to the first Hokage before. Hell, he had only seen his face in pictures and heard about him in school or from his sensei. The man was kind though, it radiated off of him like heat from a candle. There was no doubt in the Sanin's mind why people chose him to be the leader of Konoha. His charisma was off the charts. Shodai-sama. Jiraiya could barely say anything, still in shock over the ordeal. The first seemed to notice this and his smile increased. I see that you must be a leaf shinobi, the will of fire burns bright in you. Perhaps you can tell me why I am here and then we can go from there. Jiraiya nodded dumbly, his mind needed a stimulus to work himself out of shock. I summoned the death god to work out a deal to bring you back for a short time. The village of Konoha is in danger, great danger. I hate to release you so suddenly, Hokage, but our enemy is not a normal one. We need your special abilities to have victory. Hashirama's eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed, realizing just how serious it was. I see. If you went through all this trouble to get me here, I can only guess that this is truly a danger. Tell me though, who is this enemy? Jiraiya's eyes narrowed and Hashirama tried to guess the man's thought process. Nothing could have prepared him though for the answer. Madara Uchiha. Hashirama was frozen solid. He couldn't believe that his old rival's name would be brought up, let alone be told that he was alive. But, I.K. Madara at the Valley of the End. How can he be alive? Jiraiya sighed. If only the first really had him back then, it would have saved everyone a lot of trouble. It seems he was able to live through that battle and now he is endangering the world with a plot of world domination. The reason why I summoned you though wasn't because he is our enemy, it's what he is using against us is what troubles me. Hashirama caught on but again could only look at Jiraiya with shock. He is using the tailed beasts. They should all be inside Jinchuriki by now though, how can he harness their power? It didn't make any sense. Madara had always been a genius, but to go as far as to learn how to pull beasts from their containers was such a sadistic jutsu. I don't understand how he was able to learn how, but he has so far captured 4 Jinchuriki and the tailed beasts. He is preparing to use them against Konoha and you and I need to go stop them. Again Hashirama was overwhelmed with the sheer level of information being spoken to him. 4 tailed beasts. That is, I can't believe it. My old nemesis really does mean to bury Konoha because of his hate. 4 tailed beasts. Hashirama was mumbling to himself, still in disbelief. Jiraiya was about to rouse him from his musings when the man looked into his eyes with a very stern look, somewhat surprising him. I understand, let's get going. I will stop him, it is my fault it has gotten this bad in the first place. Jiraiya nodded and led him out of the room and out into the base. We have to hurry, there is no telling when the attack will start and we are many miles away. Hashirama silently cursed as he followed Jiraiya, trying his best to figure out a plan of attack. His eyes widened when the thought of his necklace came up. The last he remembered was giving it to Tsunade. Boy, what has happened to my necklace? Last I remember it was in the hands of my granddaughter, Tsunade. Jiraiya looked to him and thought about it for a second, remembering that Naruto had already given it back to her. Tsunade was crushed after that and couldn't find it in herself to wear it. She kept it in the desk inside the Hokage office. It's in Konoha, we can get it there. Hang in there, Gramps, I am on my way. 000. Land of Fire. Konohagakure outskirts. Madara's staging area. Madara stood on a tree branch, silently waiting for the sealing process to finish. Around each strategically placed was at least a dozen shinobi, all holding scrolls in their mouths and whispering incantations as they went through hand signs. A circle drawn in B surrounded each large pot. The symbols were lighting up in an eerie green as the tailed beasts were slowly pulled out from the containers. Hitsuji, Saru, Hitsuji, Uma, Mi, Tori, Mi, Hitsuji, Tora, Ne, Uma, Ne, Uma, Yu, Saru, Hitsuji, Mi, Tatsu, Inu, I, Inu, Tatsu, Tori, Yu, Hitsuji, Saru, Uma, Saru. Their endless chants droned in Madara's ears. A lesser man would have gone insane with annoyance. Madara zoned it all out with sheer excitement. Soon. Oh, very soon. Yu, Uma, Yu, Ne, Tora, Hitsuji, I, Hitsuji, Tora, Saru, Me, Saru, me, Hitsuji. Tailed Beast Container, release. The men removed their scrolls from their mouths and placed them in the corresponding positions on the glowing circle in front of them. The light intensified and raced towards the pots that were in the center of each ring. The kanji that indicated their numbers lit up and the tops of the pots began to creak open. Tailed beast energy leaked out of each one as the men scrambled to find some distance. The heavy release of energy cracked the ground and sent fishes coursing through the dirt. Gale force winds began to blow as the chakra began to take a corporeal shape in the world. Madara watched as the four-tailed beasts soon to be under his control manifested in their beastly forms, easily towering over the forest they were summoned in. That's it. Come on out to play, tailed beasts. Look into my eyes and feel the control of the Sharingan. With their attention grabbed, Madara placed the simple beasts under a genjutsu of control. Sharingans replaced their pupils as the tailed beasts fell sway to his control with ease. As it was only a short way to Konoha, Madara felt the urge to walk there with his pets, obediently following behind. It would be grand entrance that kicked off the even grander demise of the village hidden in the leaf. His men scrambled and tried their best to stay out of the beast's path as they began their monstrous stampede towards Konoha. Each footstep a mini earthquake was heard and felt. With the amount of energy released from the summoning, it is only a matter of time before the leaf sends squads to check it out. No matter. I will just have the men under my command deal with them. They are nothing but flies compared to the beasts I hold under my control now. Sir, Konoha squads are coming. What should we do? One of his men shouted out to him, frightened towards the summons but even more worried about the response from Konoha. Go and eliminate them, nothing can stand in the way of the beast's advance. The Kiri shinobi dispersed and soon, clacks, and flashes of light could be seen in the distant foliage, evidence the battle had already begun. Time to test out their abilities. What better way to start this off but with a bang? The Seven Tails, a large rhinoceros beetle with wings for tails, brought its head up and its horns right into the ground where the battle was taking place. Compared to the earthquakes from their steps, the utter chaos created from the headbutt that ripples of the shock wave was sent in all directions of the continent. Tsunami-like waves formed in the oceans many miles away and entire villages that happened to be nearby were demolished in an instant. Konoha had its warning, the chakra monsters had arrived. As Madara strode past the huge crater, he saw the bee-and-crushed remains of what were once his forces. He merely shook his head and continued on, a worthy S for his ambitions. 000. Konohagakure. Hokage's home. Office. Koharu and Homura were inside the Hokage's office, looking after things while she was away. It had been relatively quiet since she had left a few days ago, leaving the advisors with little to do but stand around and think. While they did not necessarily enjoy the aspect of allying with the other villages, neither could say it wasn't a good idea considering situation they were in facing Akatsuki. Also, without the deterrent of owning the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, they were without the power they once had. Reflecting on Naruto, they still held by the belief that it would be a better idea to reel him back in and hold him inside the village. While it would be next to impossible now that he had gone and re-established Azugakure, it was only right the Nine Tails remained with Konoha and the Land of Fire. A young boy like him did not understand such power or the qualities needed to be a Kage. He was nothing but an impostor and a disgrace to the law in their eyes. But, as mere advisors and retired shinobi, they had little influence on the workings of current Konoha. With their biggest supporter Danzo gone and joined with Akatsuki, they had little choice but to follow through with the Hokage's thinking. They could only hope it would not ultimately destroy them in the end. Koharu, when shall we have Kakashi Hitaki's scheduled? Homura suddenly asked the elderly woman, breaking the silence between them for quite some time. Perhaps after Akatsuki is defeated. Then again, that could be too long from now. His death will hopefully garner further support in the effort to recapture the Nine Tails Jinchuriki from Azu. It has to be timed right if we wish to succeed. Homura nodded. He began to write a few notes down on a scroll before stuffing it back into his robe. It shouldn't be long before the Hokage returns. We can discuss it with her and see how the alliance is preparing to deal with Akatsuki. I believe a swift move is necessary against Madara, otherwise he will wriggle from our grasp again. Koharu nodded in agreement to his words and looked out the window to the village, noticing the darkening clouds coupled with the late evening made the entire sky seem black. A sudden shaking hit the room and both had trouble finding purchase in staying up. Koharu found her balance with the windowsill and chair while Homura was forced to his knees by the earthquake. As suddenly as it began though, the quake ended, leaving the elders confused as to the reason behind such a rare phenomenon. It was answered quickly by the elder Toad couple who had just entered the office in a puff of smoke. Madara Uchiha is here. He has brought his tailed beasts to destroy Konoha. You must prepare yourselves. Fukasaku quickly yelled out in warning, out of breath from going at full speed to get to Konoha in record time. The elders looked at them with confused expressions, they were not sure they heard right. Madara Uchiha was there, with tailed beasts. The Toad's theory was quickly backed up when an Anbu arrived and knelt before the two elders. Report. Homura ordered, a certain edge to his voice as his mind began to fret over the few possibilities of what really happened. Either it really was a natural occurrence or something very powerful created it. The question is though, which one is it? I dearly hope it is the former. Homura-sama, Koharu-sama, 4 extremely large chakra signatures have been felt to be approaching the village from the north. We believe it has something to do with the recent earthquake that hit the village. We have no visual of the source of the chakra though. The advisors exchanged glances as they knew that the Toads were right, Madara had come. This is no natural occurrence, Homura. Koharu warned, turning towards the Anbu and began to speak with an orderly tone. Put the village on a level 1 emergency. All available shinobi teams should head to the north wall and prepare to sortie against the incoming enemy forces. Have Shizune prepare the medical corps and get the hospital prepped. There will be many wounded coming in. The Anbu seemed startled from the amount of orders but knew not to question, only to obey. Yes, ma'am. He saluted and disappeared in a blur, leaving Homura to summon a few more shinobi. The village is under a level 1 emergency. Move to the academy and residential districts and begin to evacuate the children and civilians to the mountains. Tell everyone you can see and make sure the teams heading to the safe houses have their barrier scrolls with them. We can't afford to have them endangered from a stray jutsu. The shinobi saluted and disappeared to fulfill the orders, leaving both advisors to slump in sudden exhaustion as their minds caught up with adrenaline. Fukasaku-sama, will your Toads aid us in battle? I am afraid without you, we have little hope without the Hokage here. The best our shinobi can do is to delay them as they did the 9 tails. Fukasaku nodded to Homura's request and began to head out the door. Yes, I will bring Gamabunta and the others to the north gate with a summoning. I will let you know now that other than your Hokage, more reinforcements are coming. We just have to hold out long enough. Make sure you get as many people as you can to safety. Come on, Shima. The 2 Toads left the advisors to their own devices as the village scrambled to defend themselves against an invincible enemy. 000. Azugakure, Uzumaki compound. Mei awoke in the early morning, nearly midnight, to a slight tremor that shook her bed. It was barely noticeable, but for people like Mei who were light sleepers, it was an instant wake-up call. She was about to get out of bed to investigate when a light breeze told her she had no clothes on and quickly placed her discarded robe on. Looking over to wake up Naruto, she was sadly reminded he was not in bed with her and she continued on alone. She got up from bed and went to Roshi's room immediately, only a few steps down the hall from her own. Mei found him still asleep, albeit he did look angry with a frown on his face. With him safe, Mei went back to her own room and opened the balcony door to look outside. The rain was still going, but it was much lighter now and she could easily see outside. What she saw completely stumped her in surprise and confusion. Dozens of shinobi, mostly Anbu, were running around the compound, opening doors to homes and positioning themselves around the compound. Curious as to what was going on, Mei went to her closet and put on her usual ninja attire, a tight robe that went down to her thighs with pink shorts and armbands that matched her robe. Running out of the house, she was immediately engaged by 3 shinobi. 2 were hurricanes, the bodyguards of the Azukage and his family, while the other was a masked man with a red robe covering his body. Mei felt somewhat better seeing Ao on the scene. He was a level-headed man and chances were that if he had given the order for the men to be there, it was with good reason. Mei-sama, it is good to see that you are all right. It would probably be better if you went back to bed though. Mei crossed her arms as a subtle show of dominance that she would not do as he asked, instead responding with a question. I just woke up, what's going on here? Why have the Anbu been deployed to the compound? This is private property. She reminded the Anbu general, The clans were completely ended to their privacy, and as a rule of thumb, shinobi not of that clan had no business being on the grounds. I'm sorry, Mizu. I mean May-sama, but there has been an incident inside the compound. I have received orders from the Azukiage himself to sequester the Anbu and medical teams here until we receive word to do otherwise. May's eyes widened in surprise upon hearing the order was given by Naruto and calmed down somewhat, uncrossing her arms and relaxing. She still wanted to know what the incident was though. What exactly happened, or do you even know? Ao sighed and shrugged. Well, it appears as though an infiltrator by the name of Sasuke Uchiha entered the village in an attempt to kill the Azukiage. May lightly gasped at the information, bringing a hand to her mouth to cover it. But he was intercepted by an unknown friendly shinobi and led away from the village. Naruto said he trusted the person, so I have no reason to doubt him. The only thing is that we have yet to see this shinobi or the Uchiha, so it is impossible to confirm what either of their statuses are. May took the information in and stood there in silence, unsure of what to make of it. So, I can guess that my husband made a stop to speak to you before going off to train then. Ao suddenly jerked his head towards her in surprise, wondering how she knew. He nodded in affirmation. Yes, that's right. He gave me 2 scrolls, one with orders to fulfill and the other to give to the beast tamers. I already handed over the scroll to Akeru, all that's left is to open up his orders. I haven't yet because his last orders to me were to make sure you and Roshi remained safe. I have been up all night watching the house. May smiled at that, glad to hear Naruto's concern for her and Roshi even when he had other pressing matters to concern himself with. Right, come in the house with me and let me see the scroll. The 3 masked shinobi fell into step behind her and they entered the Uzumaki kitchen. May dismissed the 2 hurricanes with a subtle hand gesture, sending both of them to the entrance of the kitchen as guards. Ao took off his mask and rubbed his eye before he took out the scroll with the Azukage's stamp on it. He handed it over to the cage-level woman and watched as she touched it with a finger and inserted some chakra into it, opening the scroll and allowing May to read. Ao, these orders must be accomplished as soon as possible. This war will be over very soon, one way or the other, so we must prepare for the final battle. I need you to get messenger birds out to every single one of our allies who have pledged military support to us. We can expect AM to arrive soon as they are being led by one of the Akatsuki defectors. We need to rally our own forces so that we may finish Madara. While I would like to speak again with the 4-village alliance, I doubt it would get us anywhere and I have little time for rhetoric. As they underestimate me because of my age, I cannot doubt that I will get little accomplished. Instead, we must rely on our own strength to win the day, even if it means we must do so without the support of the elemental nations. Send messenger birds to Crescent Island, Bear Country, Land of Waterfalls. Make sure that at the end of 2 weeks, you prepare our armies and march for Kiri. I am almost positive that Madara will make his final stand there, to which we will meet his forces with our own. When you get there, make sure Akeru uses that scroll I had you give him. It will bring me and all the lava monkeys to battle. Hopefully by that time, I will have finished my training. The fate of the world, no matter how cliché it sounds, indeed rests on me being summoned to fight, so do not forget. Also be sure to keep an eye on my family. I am worried about them when I can't be there to protect them. It would be best to allow May to be in temporary command of the village. She is most likely more see out for it than either of us. Please allow her to read this as well. Shodai Azukiage. Naruto Uzumaki. What does it say, ma'am? Ao asked politely as it seemed to be a long message. It was no doubt extremely important. May placed the scroll on the island counter and allowed Ao to pick it up and read. Her stern, cage look had resurfaced over her face as she prepared to once again lead a village to war. It seems my husband has left me behind to do his dirty work while he is away. I suppose it is the least I can do for him while he risks his life training in some volcano. Come on, Ao, you can read that on the way. Ao looked up from the scroll in curiosity as May began to leave the kitchen. He quickly got up from his seat and followed her out the door and towards the front door to the house. What do you mean, ma'am? Where are we going? May turned around and pointed towards the 2 hurricanes that were beginning to follow. You will remain here. Gather the rest of your squad and protect my child while I am away. If anything happens, I will be in the Azukiage Tower. Come along, Ao, we have much work to do. The 2 hurricanes looked at one each other and shrugged, setting off to follow their orders. Ao just nodded to her request and placed his mask back on as they exited the building into the rain. He handed her a spare robe that was made for Anbu traveling and she quickly placed it on, protecting her clothing from the rain. Let's move. The two disappeared in a blur towards the Azukage Tower in the center of the village. They had a village to run. 000. Land of Iron. Iron Fortress. Cage Summit. During the opening throes of Madara's attack on Konoha, the Cage of the Elemental Nations were embattled with root shinobi at the summit. It was one last deterrent to keep the strongest ninja and their troops from coming to aid Konoha, even if it meant Akatsuki's special forces. While it would most likely not K the cage, it would most certainly delay them, and that was all the Uchiha could have asked for. Damn it. Get out of my way. A blasted through a few root shinobi that had teamed up against the Raikage. Before they could finish their hand signs, AS into them with his lightning-enhanced taijutsu. Hee, boss sure can take care of business with just one arm. Darui muttered out, grunting in exertion from holding back a root officer's tanto with his butcher sword. C glared at him as he knocked another would-beer away from the Raikage's blind spot. Shut up and fight, Darui. The white-haired man shrugged and pushed the officer back, keeping him on the defensive as the Kumo shinobi prepared to finish him. Akatsuki created a golem of earth and had it become his partner as he fought off a large number of root forces, obviously teaming up on the larger guy. The golem picked up one hapless soldier that attempted to strike at Akatsuki's flank and him into the floor. Going through hand signs, Akatsuki aimed his new jutsu at a few enemies that were beginning to charge at the Tsuchikage. Earth release, earth spikes. A few spikes were created from the stone tile floor and impaled a few root while causing the rest to dodge. Onoki glared at the boy as he scrambled to defend himself after trying to help the Tsuchikage. Akatsuki, stop worrying about me and watch your own back. The younger man stuttered off an affirmative as he dodged more attacks while Onoki turned back to his foe, a particularly savvy shinobi amongst root known for his dangerous hidden jutsu. Now time to finish you off, ya little squat. Dust release, swift decomposition. The Tsuchikage created a cloud of dust and sent it flying at Torun, forcing him to dodge the tiny particles. He spared a look over his shoulder to see some of it touch the wall behind him and it acted like an eraser, completely disintegrating the wall. He whistled in admiration and turned back to the cage. Looks like I'll have to be careful around you. He charged forward and removed his glove, trying to lay a hand on the Tsuchikage's face only to be warded away by the lingering dust in the air. He was however able to lay a hand on the Tsuchikage's cloak, forcing him to quickly release it as it was infested with nano-bugs capable of eating his skin. The body of a crushed root soldier flew over the short-stature man and looked to see Tsunade slightly huffing in exhaustion. Around her lay multiple craters and of wrecked soldiers who had attempted to face her in close combat only to fail. The Tsuchikage saw that the room was beginning to get too chaotic with all the fighting in such a small space and felt it was necessary to change the scenery. Oi, if you want to fight me, you'll have to follow. Onoki ran out into the hallway and sure enough was rewarded with a few root soldiers including Torun ready to fight him. You made a mistake separating yourself from your bodyguard, old man. Torun taunted, emphasizing his age as his compatriots prepared their attacks. Onoki grew a tick on his forehead and went through hand signs, an angry scowl on his lips. We'll just see about that, kiddo, you just underestimated me. Earth release, wall crush. The walls in the hallway began to move and suddenly launched towards one another, attempting to squish the men in between. Only Torun was able to escape from the attack but soon found himself in great pain. He looked on his back to find it disintegrating from dust and looked back at the old man for an explanation. Onoki smirked as the boy found out his collaboration jutsu with dust and earth release. From the two walls together, a small amount of dust kicked out from the impact point. You thought you were safe when you jumped out, but in reality you were still in my trap. Learn to respect your elders in the afterlife, it's the least you can do. Torun by that point in time had completely disintegrated into dust, allowing Onoki to view the carnage back in the meeting hall. Gaara and Temari were fighting in the stands with her using wind jutsu to up those that got too close while Gaara used his sand to defend them from attacks and crush the root forces that got too close. Sakura was fighting a blonde root member who wielded the double-bladed tanto and the samurai were fending off the soldiers near Mifune where he and her had stood near each other. Shintention. Fu yelled out, sending his consciousness into Sakura's to take over her body only to find a lot of resistance. What is this? Does she have a split personality? Inner Sakura began to fight with him in her mindscape, clearly overwhelming him through sheer surprise. As he attempted to escape back to his body, Tsunade made her way to Sakura and S.A. Root Soldier, who was attempting to take advantage of Fu's attack on her mind. She easily stopped his attack and ran over to Fu's body, kicking it into a wall and forcing Fu into full unconsciousness when he finally returned to his body. As the battle wound down to just a few Root soldiers left, Tsunade personally confronted Danzo. The man had already removed his unneeded clothes, revealing both his Sharingan arm and his eye. The Hokage also noticed with interest that the arm Naruto had gotten rid of was still missing, meaning the man couldn't use a majority of his ninjutsu. It didn't matter much though, the man was already tired and had used most of his abilities already to little effect. Give it up, Danzo, this battle is over, she announced, trying her best to make him see reason and give up. All he did was smile and chuckle. Oh no, Tsunade, you see, this battle was only a diversion. I'm sure you already knew that thanks to the messenger, but you should also know that Konoha is finished. My part is over. Tsunade gritted her teeth in anger and balled her fists up so much she began to draw blood from her nails, biting into her skin. It didn't make any sense why Danzo would do this to Konoha. He loved his village. Why, Danzo? I thought you loved Konoha. Why go this far? Was this part of your plan? Before Danzo could answer, A.S. into him with his fist and sent the man flying back into a wall. It doesn't matter, Tsunade, what matters is getting to Konoha and finishing Madara. See, Darui, we are leaving. The Raikage collected his things and headed out with his bodyguards, intent on raising the alarm in Kumo. Well, I suppose we'll get going too. Come on, Akatsuki. The Tsuchikage beckoned his bodyguard, who quickly picked up the struggling man and placed him on his shoulders before running out of the room. We shall as well. Our forces will head to Konoha as soon as possible, though I fear we will be too late. Gaara and Temari disappeared in a gust of wind and disintegrated into sand. Tsunade went closer to Danzo's form, wanting to investigate something. She had seen something off about his left eye, the normal one right before he was finished off by A. When she approached, she could find nothing off about it, confusing her further. What did I see? I thought for sure it looked like A. Tsunade-sama, we need to get moving. Sakura's warning awoke her from her thoughts and she quickly picked up her fallen jacket and left the meeting place to return to Konoha. Hang on, I'm coming, Konoha. 000. Azu Island. Mountain of Fire. Very good, Uzumaki-sama. I can feel your chakras, they are completely still, even with your proximity to the volcano. Naruto said nothing, his eyes were closed in quiet concentration as he remained perfectly still with his chakra calmed. Yes, I think I have mastered this part of the exercise, Naruto said as he slowly opened his eyes and stood up, bringing the monkeys to stand up as well. It looks like it is time for the second part of the first phase. We must enter the mouth of the volcano. Yomasha noted and Naruto nodded, indicating with a hand gesture that Yomasha lead the way. Naruto-sama, are you sure you are ready to go in? All the other humans went straight to the next part and S from Burns, are you sure you can handle the flames? Naruto nodded in affirmative and explained his confident attitude. While it will take some getting used to in a different spot, I think I can handle the lava. While I was training with calming my chakra, I developed a passive way of relieving my back from the searing heat of the volcano. I enveloped my backside in a small casing of Kyuubi's chakra, as it is separate from mine, therefore it was usable at the same time as me calming my normal chakra. Yomasha and the others were astounded at Naruto's chakra control. To be able to use his two types of chakra in two different ways at the same time was no easy feat for anyone, not even other Jinchuriki. I see, no other human that attempted the lava training could do that, so we never considered it. Very nice thinking, Naruto-sama. Yamara complimented, to which Naruto nodded in appreciation. Their party continued to delve down into the volcano until they reached a ledge that was as close as they could get to the lava without touching it. Shots of lava would spurt up and occasionally land nearby, forcing Naruto to shy away from the dangerous fluid. It is time, Naruto-sama, please sit down here to mediate. We will stay with you and do our best to get you somewhere safe should something go wrong. Yomasha said to the Azukage, and Naruto moved to his spot and sat down, closing his eyes in concentration. He began to calm his chakra down while slowly tugging on Kyuubi's reservoirs, forming the chakra in the rough shape of a protective barrier on his back. To someone with a keen eye, they could just barely make out the orange-red chakra that had formed on Naruto's back, others would be able to feel the demonic chakra seeping from it. 000. Kyuubi sat in his cage, waiting and waiting for the kid to finish taking his chakra. It had felt the tug the first time the boy had attempted the shield and came up with a devilish idea. While he had sat idly by for 18 years, the fox had finally found a way to free himself. All it would take would be a little incentive for Naruto to use more of his chakra. He began to cackle evilly as a particularly powerful bunch of lava shot up. I think someone is about to get burnt to a crisp. 000. Naruto's eye jolted open when a particularly powerful shot of lava s right into his back and began to burn it, not enough to be fatal but enough to hurt. Naruto screamed in pain and lost his concentration, forcing him to take out more of Kyuubi's chakra and lose focus on his own. Cursing, Naruto did his best to get back under control when more lava hit his back, forcing him into unconsciousness from the sheer amount of pain. The lava monkeys grew concerned and pulled him away from the edge. They had noticed he was taking too much demon chakra and felt it best to take him back to the mouth of the volcano. 000. Naruto awoke in front of Kyuubi's cage. His dazed expression was quickly wiped away when he noticed the state of his subconscious. The entire boiler room was glowing red and Kyuubi's cage was bright with orange-red chakra, threatening to break through. The bars that made up the cage were being into with the fox's body, the strong steel was slowly beginning to twist and bend. Worst of all, Naruto saw the seal paper beginning to come off as a sure sign of his seal weakening. Naruto ran forward and attempted to hold the paper in place to stop the fox's advance. He was just barely able to withstand each hit the fox did on the cage and keep standing, but he saw that the seal would most definitely not hold for long. With one last strong push, the fox broke the seal and pushed Naruto far across the room. It roared out a challenge and charged forward as if to eat Naruto. The Azuki for once found an enemy that even he could not handle alone and prepared to face the wrath of his Biju. Damn it. How could he get this strong so fast? Was he really analyzing the seal all this time, just waiting for the right time to break out? What am I supposed to do? Just hold on, Naruto. The voice echoed out from the dark part of the room behind him and he turned to look over his shoulder to find the source of the feminine voice. Suddenly, dozens of chakra chains came from the darkness and latched onto the Kyuubi, restraining his powerful form with ease. The fox seemed to know the chakra and gritted his teeth in anger, fighting against the subduing chakra. Damn you Kushina. Naruto froze at the mention of his mother's name and turned to see a beautiful red-headed woman walk out from the darkness. Mom, is that you? Kushina looked down at her son who was still lying on the ground and smiled. Yes, I am Naruto, but you will have to wait a while before we get to talk. Your father has to finish resealing Kyuubi. Naruto's eyes widened at the word, father, and he turned back at the cage to find the Kyuubi to be inside, restrained by chains. I hate to see you again, Fox, but at least I got to see my son again because of your greed. A voice came from behind Naruto and he turned around again to see his father, Minato Namikaze, standing next to his mother, a warm smile on his face as he looked at Naruto with pride. Dad. Naruto quickly picked himself up and stood face to face with his parents, not completely believing what he was seeing. Yep, it's us, Naruto. Just let me reset your seal to fix those bars. Naruto tugged his shirt up and it allowed Minato to reset the ink, reforming it to its original form. That's the last time I can do that, Naruto. It'll be up to you to fix the seal from now on. Naruto nodded and just stood there awkwardly, not knowing what to say. So, Minato sensed the awkwardness too and together with his son scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. My son, the first Azuki. I guess you're following your old man, huh? Minato mumbled out in pride only to have Kushina punch him in the shoulder. Of course he was gonna be a cage, that was like obvious. Kushina retorted only to grab her mouth with both hands when she realized she made her unusual speech impediment. She was surprised when Naruto laughed and pointed at her. Ha ha, I used to do the same thing when I was younger. Kushina at first pouted in anger at his playful jibe but soon began to laugh with her family as it finally began to sink in that they were reunited. I can't believe you guys are here right now, this is just incredible. Minato suddenly got serious after Naruto's remark and set a hand on his son's shoulder, surprising him. Naruto, we can't be here for long. Repairing the seal wasn't the only reason we appeared. Naruto gulped and looked at both his parents, curious as to just what they had to say. 000. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.